Merry Christmas. Welcome on this holy night to this service of worship at First Baptist Church in Beverly. It is a joy to be able to welcome you to this time when we enter into this special time of worship, this time when we are anticipating the breaking through of God's love and light into the world, the coming of God into the world in the form of a tiny child. This 5 o'clock service is one that we like to call our service planned with the enthusiasm of children in mind. And so there are many moments when you will find opportunities to participate. One of those will take place in the form of our pageant. And so if you have not yet had a chance to choose a part on the tables as you come in and you would like to, you can get up at any point now and make a costume, get your props together. And this is not just for children, this is for all, it's a story for all ages. So if you would like to participate, please don't be shy, and we'll be calling you up to add to the scene here when we get to that portion of our service. Welcome to those who are gathering here in this sanctuary, and welcome to those gathering from your worship spaces on our live stream. It is so good to be together in this time. If you are gathering with us for one of the first times, we invite you, if you're here in the sanctuary, to fill out one of the Here We Gather cards that you'll find in the pew rack in front of you, and to place that in the offering plate later in the service, letting us know that you are here offering us the great gift of your presence. And if you are joining us on our live stream for one of the first times, we invite you to let us know that you are here offering the gift of your presence by offering a comment in the comment thread. We come now ready to greet the child in the manger, preparing our hearts and our minds on this holy night. And so as we enter into this time of worship, I'd like to invite some of our children to come forward to help us in this time of preparation. Come on up, everybody.
Singing the first song twice. We're singing what about
Zion and Ayla, you know what tonight is, right?
It's Christmas Eve.
That's right, it's Christmas Eve, and I'm so excited that we are here, that all of us are here for a very special service. The 5 o'clock service is my favorite.
Why? What makes the 5 o'clock Christmas Eve service at First Baptist Church so special to you?
I know it's a service planned with me in mind.
And with me in mind.
That's true, because it is the Christmas Eve service planned with the enthusiasm of children in mind.
Oh, I remember now. That's why all of those costumes and props are there in the back. In a little while, all of the children in the church, and maybe some adults too, will get to dress up to play whichever part they want to play as we reenact the story of Jesus' birth.
And here we are at the beginning of it all. We get to light the candles of the Advent wreath, all of the candles of the Advent wreath. And as we do, we can remind ourselves of the journey we have been on through the 4 weeks of Advent.
You know, ever since you first told me what you and the rest of the Advent planning group had planned for each of the weeks of Advent, I've gradually realized that some of it actually reminds me of certain parts of our own journey towards becoming a blended family.
Really? How so?
Yeah, Ben. Yeah, Dad.
Well, we have all endured some hard times in the past, hard enough that they might have led us to cry out to God or even just cry. Then it took lots of courage for us to step out and risk rejection or hurt in order to build all of these new relationships among the 4 of us. Along the way, we definitely had to learn to trust in ourselves, in each other, and even in God. And now we get to experience the real joy that comes from being a new family.
Hooray! Hooray!
Hooray is right. So tonight, as we light the first purple candle of our Advent wreath, the candle of lament, we recall the power of crying out to God when things feel darkest. We light the second purple candle, the candle of courage, as we remember the courage that it takes to take a first hard step in hard moments and dark places. We light the third candle in our wreath, the pink candle of trust, to remind us of all of the ways in which we can trust in God's faithfulness with us and to us. And we light the last purple candle, the candle of joy, as we consider the joy that comes to us when God breaks into our world with good news for all to share.
What about the big candle in the middle, Mama Jay?
That is the Christ candle, and we get to light that one tonight too, because tonight is what we have been waiting for all along, and we remember to celebrate the greatest gift God could ever give.
Baby Jesus.
Yes, baby Jesus, who shows us just how much God loves us.
So as we light the Christ candle on this holy night, we join with all of those barn animals, with the sheep and the shepherds, with the angels and the magi, and the very stars themselves, in proclaiming that Jesus is born, that God, Emmanuel, God with us, has come to live as one of us.
God's light of love is born for the whole world. It is a love even greater than the love that the 4 of us have for each other.
Whoa!
Wow. The Christ candle is burning, bringing light to the world. Let us sing and rejoice, as the angels did long ago with our opening carol, 149, Angels from the Realms of Glory.
Come on,
let
that's
us worship.
We come now to the time in our service when we can offer together a Christmas invocation, a prayer that calls upon God to be present with us. And as we do so, we're reminded that in the voices, in the movement, in the wiggles and the excitement of our children, and yes, our grown-ups, God is found. But if you have a child who would like a little time to wiggle in the back with some coloring or soft blocks, I forgot to mention to you that the lounge is open for that purpose too, and you should feel free to move around as you and your child need. After our prayer of invocation and the prayers that fill all of our hearts, we'll join together in the Lord's Prayer. The words are printed in your order of worship if that is helpful. And I invite you as you pray to use the words that are most familiar to you. Let us pray. Loving God, you have moved with us through our Advent journey. You have walked with us through moments that have felt dark or heavy. You have received our prayers of lament, our hopeful expectation. You have allowed us to find courage. You have filled us with trust in your goodness and your faithfulness. You have gifted us with abundant joy. And now you meet us here on this holy night, as we meet you here on this holy night, preparing to greet the child in the manger and lifting our voices and our hearts with joyful prayer of thanksgiving and hope that you saw fit to come into our world all those years ago, that you loved us so much that you chose to come and live with us, to be born as a baby, to grow as a child, to learn as a young adult, to teach and to lead, to show us about love and to show us about life lived in your love. And so on this holy night, God, we are grateful to be able to join our voices together, offering the prayer that that child who grew into a great teacher and rabbi taught his very first disciples, inviting them to pray to you as a loving parent. And so we do now, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Does any of this seem a little unusual to you?
Any of this?
Like, you mean how there's so many people in here with us?
Or the giant elephant up front?
Or the angel hanging from the ceiling?
Or the...
No, none of those things. Those things seem very usual for a Christmas Eve service. I'm talking about the fact that it's dark in here.
Oh, that. It did seem a little different to me. Good thing I happen to have this handy lantern in my pocket.
Wait, you just had that in your pocket?
I don't like to leave home unprepared.
That's impressive, honestly.
This is making me think about this year's Advent theme here at the church, moving through dark, and the ways that we've thought about how the Advent journey, the journey toward Christmas Eve, is a journey that finds us moving through the dark. Sometimes lamenting the dark spaces, finding courage to take the first step, trusting that God is with us, and rejoicing that God's light will break through.
The people in Jesus' time must have felt like that too. Like the world seemed dark and heavy, and then, just when hope felt hard, God came. Wow, I was not expecting that.
I bet people didn't expect to find God in a humble stable on that first Christmas Eve either.
Just trying to capture a little of that feeling. God surprised the world with a gift of love that was light for the whole world on that first Christmas Eve. There are definitely lots of spaces and places in our world still where the tender care of a God of love and a Prince of Peace is really needed.
That's what makes the story of Christmas so powerful. On Christmas Eve, we celebrate that God loved the world so much that God chose to be born into the world, in spite of the brokenness and the pain, to bring love and peace and care into the world, to touch the seeming darkness of our nights with light.
Moving through dark can be hard, but at Christmas we remember that even when it seems darkest or when we feel alone, God's light of love is breaking through.
Hey, this gives me an idea. You know what we could do?
What?
What if we really explore the story together again, right now? What if we tell it again and hear it again with our hearts open to be surprised all over again at how much God loved the world, that God would come into our world in spite of it all, because that is true on the first Christmas, and that is still true today.
You mean like doing a play? Acting it out?
Yes, bringing the story to life by acting it out. And by doing that, we can rediscover not only the beauty of the story and this whole end of the Holy Night, but also rediscover the joy and the wonder of the fact that despite the brokenness, despite the darkness, God crept into the world in a time and in a place where no one would have expected, touching the darkness of our night with light, all because God loved us so much.
Oh, I'm really excited about this idea. Okay, everyone, we need your help. Tyler, Emmett, and I are going to retell the story of that first Christmas Eve. A story of God's light of love breaking through into the darkness, but we need your help to bring it to life here on the chancel. At the rear of the sanctuary, there's a table with props and costumes for many of the characters needed to tell this story fully. Maybe, like Tyler and Emmett, you came prepared to play a part or had a chance to choose what you wanted to be on the way in.
2 out of 3 wise men at your service.
If you didn't already choose your part, you can still do that now as we begin the story. Everyone is welcome to participate. This is a story for all ages, and there's room for everyone to take a role and come up. And we can have as many animals, shepherds, angels, and magi as people who want to participate. So don't be shy. We'll tell the story, and we'll invite different characters up at different times. And when we're done, we'll have created the scene of that first Christmas Eve together, right up here on the chancel.
They look ready. I think we can start to tell the story. I'll set the scene. In those days, a decree went out from Emperor Augustus that all the world should be registered.
This was the first such registration, and it was taken while Quirinius was governor of Syria. All went to their own towns to be registered. Joseph also went from the town of Nazareth in Galilee to Judea, to the city of David called Bethlehem, because he was descended from the house and family of David. He went to be registered as Mary, to whom he was engaged and who was expecting a child.
As we sing verses 1 and 2 of Carol 165, Once in Royal David's City, we'll add Mary and Joseph to our scene, and anyone who has chosen to be a stable animal, like donkeys or chickens or cows, can come forward to start the creation of our scene.
Not sheep, camels, or elephants, though. You'll all come later.
True, just those first stable animals for now. As we sing the beautiful opening of the beautiful opening verses of the carol, let's have Mary, Joseph, and any donkeys, cows, or stable animals come forward to begin the creation of our nativity scene.
And there, on that holy night, in the innkeeper's stable, surrounded by hay and all the stable animals, something incredible happened. While they were there, the time came for Mary to deliver her child. And she gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger, because there was no room for them in the inn.
As we sing verse 1 of Carol 162, "What child is this? Baby Jesus" will be added to our nativity scene up here on the chancel.
Now in that region, there were shepherds living in the fields, keeping watch over their flock by night. In those days, the shepherds spent the nights out in the fields with the sheep, to protect them from wolves and other predators who might be lurking in the darkness. The shepherds would have gathered around campfires to keep warm, huddled together under the night sky.
As the shepherds huddled together, an angel of the Lord suddenly stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them. And they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Fear not, for see, I am bringing you good news of great joy for all people. To you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, who is the Messiah, the Lord. And this shall be a sign for you. You will find the babe wrapped in bands of cloth and lying in a manger."
And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host, praising God and saying, "Glory to God in the highest heaven, and on earth peace among whom he favors."
When the angels had left them and gone away to the heaven, the shepherds said to one another, "Let us go, even now, to Bethlehem, to see the thing which has taken place, which the Lord has made known to us."
So they went with haste and found Mary and Joseph and the child lying in a manger. When they saw this, they made known what had been told to them about the child. And all who heard it were amazed at what the shepherds had told them. The shepherds were filled with joy, and they offered great praise to God for all that they had seen. As we sing verses 1 and 2 of Carol 155, "Angels we have heard on high," all those who have chosen to be angels, shepherds, and sheep should come forward to add to our scene.
The shepherds weren't the only ones whose regular lives were suddenly filled with joy when they heard about the birth of this baby. This baby was so special that God marked the place where he had been born with a bright and beautiful star that shone out to tell the whole world about the joyful news of his birth.
As we sing verse 1 of Carol 159, there's a song in the air. All those who have chosen to be stars can come forward to add to the nativity scene. We'll add the Star of Bethlehem up there too.
The star was so beautiful and so bright that it captured the attention of some wise travelers from the east. And they came to Jerusalem filled with joy, asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star at its rising, and we have come to pay him homage."
These wise travelers followed the star until they came to the place where it had stopped. And when they went inside, they saw the baby Jesus with his mother Mary and his father Joseph. And they rejoiced that they had found this special child. They knelt down before him and offered him fine gifts, gold, frankincense, and myrrh. As we sing the first verse of Carol 172, we three kings, all those who have chosen to be magi, camels, or elephants, can come forward and join the others on the chancel to complete our scene.
And that's how it happened, that when God's people felt like they were moving through the darkness, God came into the world, offering a light of love and of hope. God came, bringing hope of a real, lasting peace and joy in the form of a little baby.
In the midst of the darkness, God came. God was born into the world on that first Christmas Eve, surrounded by the animals and the shepherds in the dim light of a stable. God came.
Yes, and we're invited to welcome that love of God to be born into our hearts and into our world again this Christmas Eve and every day.
And that sounds like a story of the greatest joy.
It is. It's a story of joy for the world. And with joy this big, what else can we do but sing it out?
Please be seated.
Tell Jack on 3. Our story this evening is The Christmas Candle, written by Richard Paul Evans, paintings by Jacob Collins, adapted by Reverend Julie Flowers.
On a snowy Christmas Eve, a young man made his way along a dark and deserted cobblestone street.
His name was Thomas, and he was wrapped in a warm woolen cloak to protect him from the cold wind and the chill in the December air. On his back, he carried a knapsack.
In his hand hung a tin candle lantern. Behind the lantern's glass panes sat the remains of a spent candle, burned down and used up as he had traveled in the dark of the night.
When he saw the glow of candlelight through the shop window of the chandler, the village candle maker, he hurried his steps, moving quickly toward the lighted shop window along the snow-covered path. In Thomas's path, there was a poor man shivering in the cold, holding out a cup, asking if Thomas could spare a few coins.
Impatient, Thomas pushed the man aside and opened the door to the candle shop. Inside the shop, metal pots filled with tallow and beeswax hung from a stone hearth. The old chandler stood with his sculptor's tools in his hands, surrounded by the beautiful creations he had made out of wax.
I am lucky to find you here.
Thomas said breathlessly.
The town is empty.
The old chandler gazed silently at Thomas as the young man glanced about the rows of beautifully sculpted candles.
There were sprites and fairies, angels with see-through wings, and fragile princesses in gowns as delicate as lace.
They smelled of myrrh and frankincense, of cinnamon and pine, and of all the good scents and smells of Christmas.
You are a foolish old man,
Thomas said.
You spend hours making beautiful things that will devour themselves when lit. How long before the flame melts this delicate angel into nothing more than a lump of wax?
He pointed to a row of simpler candles, saying,
I only need a light, not beauty. I will take one of those.
The old candle maker looked steadily at Thomas. The Christmas candles are no good to you, the old man said. Thomas was startled by the stern response, but he tried to laugh it off, saying,
It would do me much good not to stumble in the dark as I travel. Are you playing with me, old man? I will gladly pay more for your candle than it is worth.
It is only 4 coppers, but you may find it costly. The old candle maker's words and face were strangely serious.
I have money. Just give me the candle.
Thomas shouted at the man.
It's Christmas Eve and it's late and my family is waiting for me. I need illumination to find my way in the dark.
Ah, then it is illumination that you desire, the old candle maker asked softly.
That is what I need,
Thomas replied. The candle maker nodded slowly. So you do, he said.
He took a candle, dipped it over a flame, then placed it into the tin lantern that Thomas carried. Thomas dropped some coins on the counter and walked to the door. The old candlemaker smiled in an amused-looking way.
Merry Christmas, my brother, he called to Thomas. The farewell surprised Thomas.
To you as well,
He stammered. Then he hastily stepped out of the candle shop and into the darkness of the Christmas Eve night, the newly purchased candle in his lantern lighting the road ahead.
Thomas had traveled only a short distance when a shadow emerged from out of an alleyway. A robber, he thought, fearfully. He held out his lantern. Who's there? He called. Then, in the light of the candle, he saw it was only a frail woman huddled against the cold.
"Sir,"
cried the woman.
"a pence, please."
His eyes narrowed in contempt at this poor woman standing in his path, keeping him from his family, their warm home, and their Christmas Eve dinner.
Then, as he looked at her more closely, he gasped. He knew that face well. It was his own mother.
Mother, what is this prank? Why do you greet me as a poor woman begging for coins? Mother, you'll get chilled being out here like this. Here, take my cloak.
He removed his warm woolen cloak and held it out to her.
Cautiously, the woman came forward, grabbed the warm coat he held out, and retreated into the shadows.
But as she moved back out of the lantern's light, her appearance changed. She was not his mother after all, but a poor woman shivering in the cold.
What a strange trick,
Thomas said to himself. He wrapped his arms around his chest, shivering now without his cloak.
Thomas walked on, quickening his pace against the cold winter air. As he passed beneath the awning of a darkened inn, the candle's light revealed another form, a person lying on the cold ground.
He held the candle out to see better, and he gasped.
Ellen, my brother, what are you doing out here on the cold ground? Are you okay?
He set the lantern down, and he pulled his brother's limp arm around his shoulder, struggling to help him stand. He pounded on the door of the inn, which was opened by a weary-looking woman.
My brother is sick, and I am afraid he will freeze out here before I can come back with help for him. I cannot carry him alone. May I bring him inside to get warm?
For the price of a night's stay, for a shilling,
the woman said to him.
Thomas reached into his pocket.
A shilling? I only have 6 pence.
The woman scowled and began to close the door.
Wait, please,
Thomas cried.
My knapsack is worth more than a shilling, and inside it has newly tailored clothes I got for the Christmas holiday. I will give you everything if you will please just let him inside to get warm.
The innkeeper looked at the bundle Thomas offered, and then she nodded. Leaving his lantern on the curb, Thomas helped his brother inside and gently seated him on a warm and cozy chair by the inn's fire. As he did so, he gasped. The man was not his brother, just another young man, cold and sick, who had fallen outside. Thomas left him in the care of the innkeeper and turned to go. Once back outside, Thomas retrieved his lantern from the curb where he had left it.
There is something strange about your light,
Thomas whispered, looking into the glass panes of the lantern at the Christmas candle within.
Thomas had just glimpsed the bright lights of home when he came across a little girl shivering in the cold.
Have you anything to eat, sir?
She asked in a faint voice. Thomas felt something stir in his chest. The child was so tiny, no bigger than his little sister. He pulled the lantern away. He knew what it would reveal to him in its light, that this little girl might be his sister. But what could he do? He had given away everything he had already. I have nothing to give, he murmured regretfully as he left her in the cold.
Penniless and cold, Thomas trudged onward, hardly pausing to glance at the familiar houses of his childhood neighborhood.
His own home was decorated beautifully for the season, and music and laughter were coming from inside. As he entered the foyer, his mother greeted him with great joy and excitement.
Thomas, you have arrived at last.
Hearing her excited cry, his brothers and sisters came running to welcome him. When all the commotion of the welcome began to settle, his mother looked at him more closely.
Why, Thomas,
she exclaimed.
Where is your warm cloak?
Yes, said his brother Ellen, and why have you no knapsack with you?
Thomas gazed at their bewildered faces.
I gave everything away,
he answered them. To whom?
His mother asked, puzzled.
Thomas looked down at the Christmas candle the wise old candlemaker had sold him for his lantern that night, and suddenly he understood the man's words to him.
The candle maker spoke the truth. You are costly,
Thomas said to the candle.
but of great worth.
What is this riddle? What candle maker?
His littlest sister asked him.
Thomas smiled as he replied.
A wise old man who makes candles and who helped to change my understanding tonight.
Thomas looked at the Christmas Eve feast laid out on his family's table. He thought of the face of the little girl outside, cold and alone. Suddenly, he turned and headed for the door. Thomas, where are you going?
His littlest sister called after him.
Thomas smiled back at her as he replied,
I'll be right back. I just have to go see about inviting in another member of our family.
And as he left the warm, good-smelling house for the cold night, Thomas found his heart was warm with joy. For that Christmas Eve, a lesson filled with both light and beauty was learned and taken to heart.
If we see things as they truly are, we will find that all, from great to small, belong to one family.
And the illumination of this beautiful truth reminds us of what the joyous and world-changing message of Christmas has always meant to be. The end.
The light of love that comes into the world at Christmas shows us that the ultimate value of anything that we claim as our own is what happens when we see our way clear to share it with others. We are created to live in community and to love others more than we love things. In this, we find true joy and fulfillment. Our Christmas offering is an opportunity for all of us to live into these truths by sharing a portion of the good gifts that we have received. If you feel so led, we invite you to place your offering in the offering plates as they are passed. There are Christmas offering envelopes in the pew racks in front of you, which you may use for that purpose. At the same time, one of our traditions here at First Baptist Church is to treat this Christmas Eve offering as an opportunity for us to share a gift with you as well, in the form of a Christmas tree ornament. We intend for the ornament to serve as a reminder of the story we just heard and the message that it conveys. So this year's ornament is a little candle in a hanging lantern that can adorn your tree and remind you of the message of the Christmas candle. So as our children bring baskets full of lantern ornaments to you in your rows, accompanied by the deacons with their offering plates, please take an ornament to carry with you as a reminder of the measureless love of God incarnate, come to earth to show us that the way to true life, love, and peace is to see in the face of everyone we meet the very image of God, for we are all members of the same family. Let us give and receive with great joy. The star that has been growing and moving towards us through the sanctuary over the course of Advent now shines above the stable, where the light of love has come into the world. We are witnesses to that light come into the world. We are bearers of that light that has come into the world. And so we now have an opportunity to remind ourselves of that light that has come to us and what happens when we are ready to share it freely. Because there is no point in holding on to the light and grasping it just to ourselves. That light will eventually die. But if we share the light with others, it is the kind of light that can eventually transform the world over and illuminate everyone within the world. And so as our deacons come forward and release you row by row, we invite you to come forward and to take a candle with you and to step to the outside aisles and ring the sanctuary. And then as we sing together Silent Night, we will light the candles. We'll receive the light from the Christ candle up front and share it with one another until it fills our lives, our hearts, our world even. Let us share the light.
Long
And now may these words of Christmas be your words on this holy night. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flock, then the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoners, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace to all, and to make music in the heart.